want to talk about Air. Air is currently playing in limited release. And by that, I mean they're doing special screenings of this movie. It opens in a couple of weeks, but there's actually tomorrow on Saturday, April 1st, not an April Fool's joke. It is playing at 7 p.m. at AMC's across across the U.S. So check it out, because this is one of the best films I've seen this year. It is the story of the behind the scenes of a guy named Sonny who works at Nike, a struggling shoe company in 1984, just trying to get a piece of the market. At the time, Adidas was the number one shoe company. And then next to Adidas was Converse. And then there was tiny little Nike with 14% of the market. Sonny, played by Matt Damon, who's obsessed with basketball, always scouting like who is going to be the next big thing in the sport, in the NBA. And he finds this kid named Michael Jordan. This kid, just a kid, who's about to enter the NBA and begin his career as a Chicago Bull. And Sonny fights relentlessly within the company Nike that not only do we have to sign Michael Jordan, whatever it takes, we have to bet all of our money, our entire budget, our entire marketing budget for the NBA has to go to one player. Ben Affleck plays Philip Knight, who is the head of the company. He does a really good. I've seen like some documentaries where Phil Knight was in the. He does this great take on Phil Knight, who he either wears shoes or he doesn't wear shoes. He was barefoot quite a bit. He has this kind of curly hair, wearing a suit, sort of casual. Viola Davis plays Michael Jordan's mother. Chris Tucker is a colleague who works with Matt Damon's character. He plays a guy named Howard, Chris Tucker is so good in this film. I mean, Chris Tucker's always sort of fun and entertaining, and he just knocks it out of the park in a supporting role. And Jason Bateman rounds out the cast as another colleague of Matt Damon's character, Sonny. He plays a guy named Rob. This cast is incredible. Who would think that a story about the making of a shoe would be so compelling? You end up meeting other characters, including there's a character, this guy, I forget, you've seen this actor before, and I'm spacing on his name at the moment. He's the guy, his goal in life was to design the perfect shoe, the Air Jordan. But at its heart, while this film is totally a nostalgia movie, it's set in 1984, the soundtrack is fantastic. It was seeing this movie was like, not an exaggeration, it was like a breath of fresh air, in the sense that, oh, this is a real movie. It's about something. You get to know these characters. Sonny is fighting. He's fighting so hard for this thing. He wants to basically bet the entire company on this kid who hasn't proven himself. He hasn't stepped one foot on a court to play an NBA game yet, but he wants to bet everything on him and everything that went into this shoe. But as you're watching the movie, it's not about the circumstantial things that we're seeing. It's not about all this sort of, nonsense. It's about heart. It's about fighting for something you believe in. And the other thing that stood out to me about this movie, which is why the audience I saw it with, laughed. There were applause breaks. It's funny, but it's also real. It's incredibly well directed by Ben Affleck, who did Argo, which was nominated for an Oscar. He does it in kind of this real indie film way, where a lot of directors will do this thing where they try to call attention to myself. Like, I'm the director, I'm directing this movie. See me moving the camera around in an annoying way. He doesn't do any of that. He kind of holds back. You get to know these characters. You see them sort of living their daily lives and just trying to fight and struggle for something that matters. And what stood out to me most about this film, what makes it such a breath of fresh air, is that it is filled with something that almost no movie today has. And it's optimism, positivity, hopefulness. This entire company rallies around this kid because they believe in something, because Michael Jordan's mother believed in her son. You want to see, we were talking about 1001 earlier. You want to see an intact Black family? Michael Jordan's family and his relationship with his mother and father. So well portrayed in this film. Although they do this kind of trick where they don't actually really show you Michael all that much. He's kind of like in the shadows. But the way they also kind of get you into the film is with this use of like the music, videos, commercials, the level of detail. Matt Damon does his grocery shopping in basically a 7-Eleven where he kind of gets to know the guy behind the counter. Everything that's in the background in that 7-Eleven is from 1984. This movie, like, it's so moving. It's so heartfelt. I don't want to ruin anything about it. You know the basic story if you've seen the trailer. If you haven't seen the trailer, don't watch the trailer. Just go see this movie. And it's weird that I'm going to say this. Along with John Wick 4, Air is one of my favorite films this year. I can't say best film yet, in the best category or among the best films of the year. We're at the beginning of the year. We're still in March technically. But this movie is opening. It's from Amazon Studios. It's opening I believe in the next couple of weeks. It might be next week, but it's like
April 5th. Yeah, next week.
Next week, its Air is opening. But if you have an opportunity to see it in a theater this weekend, please do. One of my favorite films this year. I mean, I also personally, I'm biased. I love sports movies. They're win or lose, but the passion with which this was directed. And I'm watching this movie going, oh, now I know why Ben Affleck walked away from DC. He wanted to make movies like this. He wanted to make movies where the stakes matter. And the thing about this film is so well done. And similar with Argo, when you base a movie on a historical event, you already know the outcome. How do you make it feel like it matters? I'm on the edge of my seat watching this film. On the edge of my seat, and I already know what happens. And it also mixes some reality in it. Please don't leave, as the credits are rolling. There's stuff within the credits that you need to see that I don't want to ruin a thing, but there's sort of a mix of reality and it just reminded me of that era. It reminded me of that era of the 80s and 90s when we may have been a bit more positive and hopeful. We may have been less divided as a culture. Because who is not a fan of Michael Jordan? Whether you're a fan of the Chicago Bulls, I get it, okay? You may not be a fan of the Chicago Bulls. For me, it was I love the Detroit Pistons, the Bad Boys, that era, okay? That was me. I rooted for the Pistons, but I admired the Chicago Bulls. And certainly Michael Jordan and his career and how he conducted himself as a player, as a person, as a man, as a symbol, as a champion. And who do we have like that today? Who do we have like that today? Some of the biggest players in the NBA out themselves as they are divisive. It saddens me to say someone like he calls himself King James. Not a fan of this person on the LA Lakers. Not a fan. He could have taken a cue from how Michael Jordan conducted himself. And you're going to learn. There's a lot of things. Look, you may know the basic story. You don't know the story. I love this film. I can't recommend it enough. And this movie has nothing. There's no comparison with John Wick. It is a completely different movie. I'm just saying what made me realize I'm watching this film that Ben Affleck, he's in it. He's not the lead character. He is, Matt Damon's the lead character in this, and Matt Damon's kind of the schlubby. He's kind of got a gut. He's not really in shape. He doesn't even wear athletic shoes. But my God, it's back to the movies. I mean, I think Ben Affleck even said something about I want to get back to the movies we used to make, like Good Will Hunting, movies that really moved you, movies that didn't cost $100 million and there's superheroes and capes and all this. You're going to see this movie and go, oh, this is why Ben Affleck walked away from DC. This is why Ben Affleck was like, Yeah, can you imagine if Ben Affleck with this kind of approach made a Batman movie? It would have been great. Had they let Ben Affleck make the Batman movie he would have wanted to make, it would have been awesome. It would have been like The French Connection or a great crime film from the 70s. Because you can see Ben Affleck is completely like influenced by indie film and movies from the 70s. It has all of that. So I loved Air. I can't recommend it enough. One of my favorite films this year. Alan, I'd love to hear your take on it. I know that you did not get an opportunity to see it, but hopefully you can catch it next week, and we'll talk about it next. We'll talk about it next Friday. We'll do a dual review next Friday, but I can't wait for you all to see it. And Viola Davis, great. She's always good. She's always good. And God, just everything about this movie, I just loved.